Whoa, Bowser has a fireball now? For years, Bowser was cursed with a really laggy moveset. He still kind of does in some ways. I mean, it's Bowser, come on. But in older updates of Project M, Bowser was seen as a low-tier character. Sure, he was given many armor buffs in Bowser's whole moveset. Now he can easily pass through attacks by charging and smash attacks to sponge them to try to beat failed approaches and reverse on the situation. Even despite all these buffs, he was seen as a failure in some people's eyes because he was still the lowest tiered character in Project M. He still can get comboed because he's obviously very large, and he also has another problem. He was really terrible at dealing with projectile camping. I mean, no duh, right? Either having to deal with this with his new crawl armor, and if he was in the air, he would just have to take it. Until he just had to take, okay, until Project Plus. They said, you know what, let's try to make Bowser's severely underused neutral B attack that was rather weak and probably one of his more gimmicky special moves in his entire kit. And they decided, you know what, let's try to buff this move and give it more utility. Especially with the fact that it always depleted distance-wise, just really made no sense to me, even in the official Smash games. Now they made it into a fireball projectile. It's about as strong as one of his aerials, and it can be used on the ground or in the air, and it really goes a very far distance. Now I know what some of you are saying, this has to be really stupid and unbalanced, but the move takes 13 seconds to recharge and you can't just use it willy-nilly. If you lose a stock, Bowser doesn't have a fireball anymore, so it actually is more balanced than you probably think it is. It's a move that you can only use once per use. See, because he's a low-tier character, he's never actually won a Grand Finals until they buffed him majorly. You see, it wasn't common for him to win tournaments whatsoever. In fact, he actually won a Grand Finals of one of Project Plus's first ever tournaments, which was pretty crazy. They made his jump squat faster for once, which is an insane buff because he's always been known for having one of the worst jump squats in the game, all the way back in Melee and Brawl. In early PM updates, they made it go from an 8-frame jump squat to a 6-frame jump squat. Then in Project Plus, they said, you know what, let's make it 5. And they even gave him plenty of startup and end lag changes, making Bowser have a little less armor, sure, but they traded this by making his moveset more faster in this game, giving him a grab with 2 frames of less startup, for example. And these changes made Bowser go from a low tier to being a solid character in the B tier, which is an insane rise for a character that everyone was initially writing off. And obviously in Project Plus's very competitive tight-knit meta, that's pretty good, showing that Bowser has gone this far. Some people say he was underrated in Project M's early updates. They think that the character was always secretly good. However, Bowser definitely deserved the buffs, is what I'll say. I thought he was kind of bad back in the day, kind of more of a gimmicky character. It could have been matchup inexperience back in the day, and now people realize, wow, he's actually a lot better. But they made Bowser go from a very slow character who got camped out and couldn't really deal with projectiles effectively. They made it easier for him to find openings now. He can now tank hits, he can attack back. He actually has the ability to rush in. If he's getting projectile camped, you know, he has a way of dealing with. Another neutral B flame breath style attack that got replaced was also Charizard's flamethrower attack. Now this attack is rather underused. It's pretty niche, similar to Bowser's. And this change has been a little bit more controversial as they see it as Charizard just being given a random attack. As a whole, Flamethrower is a rather gimmicky move. You can sometimes edgeguard and kind of do like some weird gimps with it, but they change it to an electric attack that has an aerial version and it also has a version on the stage. It does have a decent amount of startup and end lag, and the grounded version is also a solid combo starting tool, while the aerial version is really good at landing back on stage. Commonly in Brawl, characters who had grounded down specials, they were missing an aerial down special attack. Many characters in Project Plus have brand new down specials or even aerial down specials. There was a small majority of characters who had grounded down specials that did nothing in the air. It sometimes felt very weird, like they were missing something. Donkey Kong, for example, got a brand new version of this move. Now he has a move that is sort of aids his recovery, and it also adds a solid mix-up tool when he's in the air, being an obvious reference to Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. Or even Peach getting a brand new aerial down special, where if she's near the opponent, she can grab and throw them, similar from Mario 2. Kirby has the exact opposite, where their down special in the air is more well known than the grounded version. It did absolutely nothing. Until now, if you input the special move, Kirby will slide on the ground, and it's a very solid combo tool for the character, as Kirby can now act out of this move and input aerial follow-ups. I mentioned in the previous Project M was broken video where during Project M 3.6, Some of the most used characters in that meta were actually Mr.Gameandwatch and Snake. Mostly Mr.Gameandwatch, although Snake was pretty dominant during this time period, both being in their peaks in Project M at the time. Project Plus would actually nerf both of these characters because people turned off with how easy their combo confirms were. Snake had a really easy kill confirm that could kill as early as 70%. This was a really dumb combo. They ended up fixing it, in my opinion, by making it kill slightly later so you don't get as easy of a follow-up with it. And Game & Watch was also one of the most used characters in the meta, and many people were complaining about their meta usage at the time. I mean, back in the day, Game & Watch was kind of really easy to play. He had easy ways of breaking crouch cancel, moves that were really safe on shield. He was actually one of the most used characters in the meta at the time. That's how common he was. While Snake lost a lot of his representation in Project Plus, I personally still think the character is actually incredible despite being toned down from the 3.6 version of the character. I remember people being very upset about the Game & Watch changes especially. Some people even switched off the character because they didn't like the nerfs to his combo game, making it less safe, making some of his KO options kill at later percents, toning down a lot of his anti-crouch cancel options, and nerfing his bucket breaking. And here we are, years later, Mr. Game & Watch is still a great character in Project Plus's meta, actually having a decent amount of usage out of the top 50. He was the third most used character, and the nerfs didn't tone down the character that heavily as I think people thought they were. I guess you could say it more normalized him. And I think it's looking good for Game & Watch, and I still think Snake is, even though I kind of ragged on him, I think he actually is still very good. It just takes more people, I guess, playing him. A previous top-level meta threat in the early versions of Project M, having one of the best recoveries in the game, could chain grab literally anything like it was nothing. It had insane KO power, probably one of the best projectiles in the game too. To this day, Pit is probably one of Project M's strongest characters if we're looking all the way back in the early days. He was used by even top-level melee players. In future balance patches, Pit would get destroyed with nerfs. This character was a previous top-level threat in the early versions of Project M. They were absolutely broken. Its early years especially, and this was like a very broken version of Project M. And then one day, Pit's days would come where he flew too close to the sun. He used to even be a top-level character for melee players. Pit dittos were more of a regular thing back in the day, and well, Pit would eventually get destroyed by nerfs. The nerfs were so well known, many people who played the character previously ended up dropping them, and he went from being a top-tier character to all the way to the D tier. The nerfs were pretty drastic. Pit's moves were now much weaker, and the character struggled to kill at times. Many of his hitboxes were really strange, and the combo starting tools were much laggier, and he became severely outclassed by the characters that he used to destroy, by the characters who were just much better than him. In Project M's final updates, they never truly went back and gave Pit the buffs that they probably would have gotten anyways. So Pit was mostly just stuck to the way he was, until Project Plus finally came around and brought him back from the grave in a way, making him into a viable character in the meta. Was he as broken as he was in the past? Of course not. Many of the things I mentioned earlier that were broken were actually fixed, and his moves hit more consistently. They improved the sweet spot sizes on, like, for example, his down tilt, making it a better combo tool, and his moves could actually KO now, which is like, yay. These things made Pit go to a solid mid-tier character who is definitely leagues better than the 3.6 version of the character. One of the characters who has had a rise in the past couple years. This is a character that probably one of Project Plus's most technical characters, finally hitting major strides with winning grand finals of tournaments and being more popular in the meta. He's one of the main characters represented in the top 50 more recently, and that's Lucas, who is one of the second most used characters in Project M's current meta. He's not really a character you can just pick up and just play for 5 minutes. He's incredibly deep, being completely different from the official version of the character, essentially being changed almost entirely. No longer being a floatier character and becoming a fast faller, PK Freeze was moved to his side special, and this is his main spacing tool that replaced PK Fire. They also gave him a lot more original differences compared to him and Ness now. His tilts are fast-paced combo tools, his neutral B is a tool that charges up his smash attacks when fully charged, and it makes them stronger kill moves. And his smash attacks might be on the slower end, but they end up being incredibly rewarding. And of course, there's his magnet, which is a tool that is essentially a shine now, that sends directly behind Lucas, and he can use this as a Swiss Army knife tool that can lead easily into his combo game with his aerials. A common misconception spread in the early days of Project M, and the early versions especially, was Are the Melee characters bad? That's right, the Project M characters have to be so broken that the Melee top tiers have to be unviable, right? Well, if we're talking about Project M 3.0, sure, maybe that argument exists, but this was way over 10 years ago. In Project Plus, not only is this far from the truth, but some of the Melee top tiers are actually buffed significantly. Captain Falcon is definitely better than the Melee version, considering he was sprinkled with the Brawl recovery buffs and safer special moves, while still maintaining the Melee top tier moveset that many people love. The Ice Climbers are existing in an engine where there's no infinites, there's no wobbling. They still can touch with death characters near the ledge with, for example, their new forward air that can spike off stage. Sheik is just as consistent as the Melee version, now having more options to tech chase opponents with, like back throw as a new mix-up option. Fox is still just as good as the character was in Melee. What? Okay, he is slightly nerfed in some minor areas, sure, but he is still really good. I mean, he wouldn't be this high for no reason. Sure, they nerfed his blaster, its decay and damage being based on distance, Shine losing its one frame intangibility, and Up Smash being the PAL version from Melee. And also his recovery options being less safe because they added end lag on them. Oh my god, they killed the character, no! Yet he's still ranked really highly in this game, so it just shows how consistent Fox is. I mean, Fox actually does benefit from a lot of brawl tech that was added to this game, like reverse aerial rush. While some other Melee top tiers are much lower, this could actually be because maybe there's actually more matchups in Project Plus. There's actually more floaties and fast fallers, and it's easier to combo certain characters, and there's different matchups, so on and so forth. There's a deeper meta in this game. And the cast is actually really close viability-wise. Any character can be played at the top level. It really just depends on how things are going in the current moment. You never know when someone maybe could play Puff and push the character higher. There is a lot of characters that are similar to the Jigglypuff style of character in Project Plus, which could be the reason why the character is so much lower than the Melee version, as this is mostly just Melee Puff existing in a different engine with some slight tweaks here and there. But I think a solid representation of any character is possible in Project Plus. That's how competitive the meta is. In the most recent meta, there's been a rise of many characters who have been initially counted out. Roy was actually a character who I personally had no idea that was going to have a tremendous rise in the most previous year. I would have thought that Roy would just be outclassed by Marth, and this is because Roy's recovery is seen as more exploitable, and he has worse matchups against characters like DK, who can combo fast fallers. Some other characters who have rose in the more recent years is Ike, who I argue is probably one of Project Plus's most underrated characters in my opinion, because I hate fighting against him. Ganondorf is a character that many people have been playing in Project Plus's most recent meta, which shows that even a character you would consider bad because, you know, he's slow, still has usage in Project Plus's meta. Top tier characters like Wolf, Wario, Sonic, Mewtwo, Meta Knight, many of these characters are top tiers right now for being incredible. Meta Knight has probably the fastest frame data in the game, and at times his recovery is really safe. Wolf has an amazing projectile being his laser. If you wave land it immediately, you can shoot another laser, and this means Wolf can essentially have two lasers on screen at once. It's that epic. Yes, you should try it. Mewtwo is probably Project M's more technical characters, and there's many interesting aspects like float canceling aerials and the high amount of range and recovery that Mewtwo has. This is one of the most aggressive movesets on Sonic that I've seen in the game, and I love it. And Wario is basically just Jigglypuff with his high aerial drift and KO power. He's good, and don't get farted on, I guess. No, for real though. Although this character is technically at second place right now on Project Plus tier list, many people actually agree that ZSS is the best character in the game currently right now. To be real, ZSS is a character who has been seen as a high tier in previous versions of Project M, but as other characters have gotten nerfed, ZSS has stayed the same. And this has led to the character becoming a top level threat, almost out of nowhere in a way. ZSS has some of the best aerial drift in the game, along with a projectile that stuns the opponent, or even a strong combo game. Her KO power is also very solid, her iconic tools being her up special and back air, and her up tilt being a combo tool for the character. Her up special is probably one of the coolest moves that this character has, in a way it just combos into her other moves and it sends opponents downward. I love it. And also, she probably has one of the best recoveries in the game because of her high amounts of aerial drift, and almost every single special move is actually a possible recovery tool, except for Neutral B, obviously. The character is actually one of Project Plus's most used characters in the current meta. In my opinion, this is the best character in the game right now. as they have a large tournament presence compared to MonteRicard, in my opinion. Now, I know some people think MonteRicard, there's like a little bit of a beef on who's better, MonteRicard or ZSS. I'm on ZSS's side because I think the character is just way more popular. Let me know what you guys think. Sell me on Project Plus MonteRicard being the best. I want to hear what you guys have to say, genuinely. This brand new character that has been introduced in Project Plus is Knuckles. He has a lot of interesting tools for a character in Smash, and he's probably one of the most unique movesets in the game. On the ground, his speed is actually pretty decent, and he has strong tools for up-close pressure and very fast combo tools. Like his fast tilts, his decent grab follow-ups. His down smash is pretty weak, but I like the animation, it's dope. His up smash is his strongest smash attack, it's a KO move, and his neutral special allows him to go into the ground and then he can pop up. Oh, surprise, oh, it's Knuckles. I didn't ask for Knuckles, oh no. His down special being a spin on Sonic's down special, and also his up special being similar to Sonic's as well, although it goes a shorter distance. It doesn't mean this is a bad recovery tool, as in fact he can actually combo out of this move really easily. And his side special is absolutely one of the best recoveries utility-wise probably in the game. He can grab ledges with it, he can shimmy up and down on the ledge, which no other character can do in the game. And he even can act out of side special, and then it becomes a very good combo tool for the character. Like, this move just has so many uses. And because he can act out of the tool and do aerial follow-ups, you truly see how amazing the potential is for Knuckles. Similar to ZSS, Knuckles probably has one of the best recoveries in the game. Many of his options when it comes to returning back on stage are really easy for the character, and it's led to Knuckles being a solid character in the meta. There is a debate currently on whether Knuckles is a little overcooked. I personally don't think he is, but I know there's some debates and some people saying his tilts are way too safe. Although it should be noted that most people enjoy his inclusion in Project Plus. So the point of the video, is Project Plus broken? It's not, in my opinion. It truly goes to show how balanced the current meta is. We've been through so many stages of Project M and Project Plus. I remember back in the day when people would complain about how broken older characters were in the 3.0 days. We've come to the point where characters have changed so many times, it's kind of crazy. And it honestly goes to show how far this mod has truly developed to where this game has became today. And it truly shows the amount of work that has been put in by the devs. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you guys want to get videos early, you want to support the channel in any way, there's a Patreon down below, run that up. Thank you so much. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Take care and peace.